This is Bad Movies We Love, part of the Shice Podcast Network.
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Hello, Bad Movie Lovers, and welcome to a new episode of Bad Movies We Love. I am your host, Nick Scheist.
The master of this stupid stuff!
I'm living up to that name because it's been a couple of weeks since I released an episode and I almost forgot how to do all of this. I thought I was just going to roll into the studio, fresh off vacation, and plow right through this, but as it turns out, it's actually quite a bit of work. Nonetheless, I am happy to be gathered here with you once again to share some laughs and hopefully some insight. As you may or may not be aware, I took the first 2 weeks of May off to do a little traveling, to do a little behind-the-scenes work, and May itself is themeless. There is no theme connecting this movie and next week's movie, other than the fact that they were pre-recorded and just waiting to be released. However, I still want to do something fun for the month, so I think what I'm going to do is do a little giveaway contest. I'm getting ready to move, so I'm packing up my physical media collection, and I know for certain that I have duplicates of certain DVDs, so if you want to be in the running to win one of my old DVDs, glorious, I know. If you listen to this episode, or the next episode, before the month of May is over in 2025, shoot me an email at badmovieswelove@theshice.com and we'll call the month E-Mail. It looked better on paper than it sounded, but still. Just send an email to badmovieswelove@theshice.com. That's THESHEIST.com. And you will be entered for a chance to win a random movie from my collection. Okay, no other calls to action because we have a show to get to. And it's a fun one because I was joined by Raph from the Canon podcast, which is part of Screen Age Wasteland. And we got together to have a surprisingly robust conversation about what used to be the redheaded stepchild of the Fast and Furious franchise, but has since become one of maybe the best, maybe most important movies in the series. We're talking Tokyo Drift from 2006. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say Tokyo Drift did not make the essential top 250 movies list.
This is just a movie about a high school kid who gets himself into trouble with the Yakuza because he just loves cars too much.
Because this movie doesn't really feel like an $85 million movie except for the car elements of it.
This movie is so 2006.
It's like, do you like cars and girls? This movie is for you.
When I was getting in trouble in high school, I wish someone shipped me to Japan.
This kid brought his dad's Dodge Viper to school? This is like douchebag 101.
He doesn't need to do donuts in order to get phone numbers.
There's an argument to be made that this might actually be the most important movie in the Fast and the Furious franchise, aside from maybe the initial one.
This is the only podcast where you can come to for Tokyo Drift talk that includes post 9/11 geopolitics and queer representation within the Fast and Furious franchise.
I have money. It's trust and character I need around me. Who you choose to be around you, let you know who you are.
Do you need me to record? Oh,
no, you're good. Don't worry about it. We're here. We're
do you
recording
need me to record
already.
On my end at all locally?
Nope.
Right, sweet.
Zoom is theoretically handling all of that, so we should be good. But yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this one.
Me too. I had sort of just like reached out to a bunch of people. I'm like, look, I love sort of, it's kind of weird to phrase it as like skeletons in people's closet, but like a lot of film people like to sort of cover movies that are very sort of like high ranking, very well regarded. And it's like, that's not what I do. Like, I have other outlets and other avenues to do that when I want to do that. But for the purposes of the show, what I like to do is sort of find out like, what is everybody's guilty pleasure type of movie. I don't really feel guilty about the things that I like, but I think that's maybe the easiest way to contextualize a lot of the movies that get talked about here. And, what can I say? You stepped up to the plate and you're like, hey, I'm ready to go. So we set it up and here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think the idea of a guilty pleasure is kind of a silly one, because if it's a pleasure, you should enjoy it, especially as like movie fans. It's possible to enjoy like a wide variety of movies for various different reasons. Some of them are going to be movies that the general public does not necessarily agree with you on. So I love that, you have this space to like celebrate some of those movies.
Yeah. And, I didn't know if it was going to really sort of take off in the way that it did, but I think everybody has those kind of movies, even people with maybe like the most highbrow taste. There's something in there that's like a little bit garbagey that it's okay to just admit that you like that and have fun watching it. So that's what we're doing here. But since it's your first time on the show, do you want to tell my audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I would love to. I guess first and foremost, I am a lifelong movie fan. Above all other things, I am simply a dude who loves movies. I think this is on like my Letterboxd profile. I am like somewhere in between a movie nerd and maybe I don't know if it's like a full on cinephile, but at the end of the day, like I am just a movie guy. I'm a guy who loves movies. So with that, I, like most movie fans in 2025, have a podcast where I talk about movies because that's the thing that we do. Name of the podcast is it's called The Canon, an essential movies watch list. It's hosted by Screen Age Wasteland, which is a lovely website where folks like me, just people who love movies, get together and write about some of their movies. So we've got reviews for both old and new movies. We do tons of like lists and things like that, recommendations for things to watch, just all kinds of like fun movie related, and I'll say this word even though I hate it, movie related content. So we've got all that going on, including the Canon, which is available on any podcasting platform that someone might be listening to us on right now.
Well, I'm going to throw you a curveball because this question just popped into my head. But in your time sort of transitioning from just like movie guy to podcast host, what is something maybe unexpected that you learned about either yourself or about maybe like film culture in that process?
That's such a good question. I think so. Like, the show that I do is based on a list of movies that we at Screen Age Wasteland have deemed to be essential, right? This is the canon of sort of like 250 movies that the writers there have sort of deemed as these are the movies that any film lover needs to check out if you want to consider yourself like a serious movie fan. And part of the reason why I wanted to do a show specifically about that is I think that like being someone who is a film fan or like a movie person on the internet, whether it be like Reddit, Twitter, or TikTok, or, whatever it is, there is a lot of toxicity, and that might just be true of like the internet in general, but it is also very true of sort of like internet online film debate culture, film, hashtag film Twitter. It can be a place of just like unnecessary hot takes and things of that sort. And I really just wanted to like have a space where people could go and just like celebrate movies that they like, because at the end of the day, we all got into this business of hot takery on the internet, because at some point we did love movies. So I think it's been really helpful for me to have like the reminder of why I got into doing all of this stuff, and that like there are movies out there that people love and we should celebrate them. And sometimes it's fine to just like have a space to engage in that and not engage in like heated debate. It's like my way of maybe making the space like slightly less unbearable.
Yeah, and I mean, I appreciate that because that's, obviously
You've got mail.
what I do here. But look at something as simple as the Fantastic Four trailer dropped today. All I saw was this is horrible or this looks good and I want to see it. There's nothing in between. So sort of like the polarizing reactions to film, I think it just like maybe naturally manifests in like social media because there's a limited amount of communication available to you. So when you do something like a podcast, you can sit down with somebody and have a long form discussion that maybe goes somewhere that you didn't think it was going to go. And in talking to people on my show, what I found out is that even movies where I didn't like it as much as the person I'm speaking to, their love of the movie and their perspective and sort of like their story with the film shapes the way that I sort of come away from that conversation. And I'm like, okay, well, I appreciate all the things that this movie is doing for somebody else. And in that way, like more longer form open conversations, I think are a much better place to sort of have discussions about film in general. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Tokyo Drift did not make the essential top 250 movies list.
It did not, unfortunately. So this is really like the only space that I've found to be able to talk about this movie, which again, I appreciate you for having this space and allowing me to come here and talk about what we can probably say is a pretty silly movie, but one that I still enjoy thoroughly. Rewatching it today, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. This is so much fun, and that's okay. It's okay to like have fun sometimes.
Yeah, that's something that like I think maybe gets lost in translation. Maybe the more you take on like I want to be a serious cinephile type of person, you sort of maybe forget that it's okay to like have fun with bad things. And I've seen that happen as well. So that's why I like to do this. And I was like, look, I know everybody has some movie that's bad that you like. Now just tell me why you like it and let's have fun talking about it. So that's why we're here. As I mentioned, we're talking about The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift from 2006, directed by Justin Lin, written by Chris Morgan, stars Lucas Black, Shad Moss, who I believe was still Bow Wow at the time that this movie was initially cast, Nathalie Kelly and Sung Kang. And tale of the tape on this movie is pretty strong, actually, for this show. I looked at the numbers and I was like, oh, this is like right on the bubble, but it's got an IMDb of 6.1, a Metascore of 45, Rotten Tomato critic score of 38, but an audience score of 69, Letterboxd score of 3.2, and a Just Watch score on like 9,000 reviews of 87%. So that gives us Bad Movies We Love total score of 60.6. So almost didn't make weight for this, but right there, like on the bubble where it's like, you really love this movie and I didn't want to disqualify it because it was like in the range of, oh, it's about to get into the 60s and maybe this is a good movie. But I think it'll be fun for the conversation because it has begun to skew more towards being a more beloved movie, not just in general, but as part of the Fast and the Furious franchise as well, since the movie came out, almost 20 years ago at this point.
Yeah, that's really interesting, the hearing about the score, because I've always sort of, my perception of the movie has been that it's one that people don't like, especially like people who are fans of the Fast and Furious franchise as a whole, which I'm sure we'll talk about. I was sort of under the impression that this would have been like easily like 40s to 50s in terms of like total score. So I guess I'm happy that people like are kind of okay on it, but I also wish that they were more down on it so that we could do more to lift it up.
Well, we'll get there because Critics Corner always shows up to humble us at the end of the show, no matter how much we like a project. But I'll take a moment now to go ahead and we'll set the table and talk about a little bit of the production elements of this, because writer Chris Morgan pitched a Fast and the Furious sequel featuring Dominic Toretto in Tokyo, but Universal opted for a high school themed story. At the time, Paul Walker and Vin Diesel both declined to return, leading to this standalone reboot. So producer Neil Moritz hired Justin Lin, who was initially unimpressed with the script, but was given a little bit more creative freedom. And filming was done in Tokyo without permits. And the studio even hired a fall guy to take the blame when police would intervene. And after test screenings, Vin Diesel agreed to come back in a cameo in exchange for the right to his Riddick character. And as crazy as that sounds, that's how Vin Diesel got shoehorned back into the movie. And while this is the lowest grossing film in the franchise, the film made $62 million or so domestically, and then it added on another 96 internationally, making $158 million against its $85 million budget. So still successful, basically doubled its production budget. And while it was initially met with mostly negative critical response, including the original Fast and the Furious director Rob Cohen basically disowning this movie, it has gained a lot of support in retrospect. IndieWire, Washington Post, The Wrap, Screen Rant, and Collider have it ranked second in the franchise, while Esquire and BuzzFeed have it at number one. As the car culture in this film was a lot more prominent, and it introduced Justin Lin and Sung Kang to the franchise. Lin would go on to direct several more of these. And the franchise was dead in the water at the time because Diesel and Paul Walker had left the project. So there's an argument to be made that this might actually be the most important movie in the Fast and the Furious franchise, aside from maybe the initial one. And I think still maybe, given that it's 10 films deep at this point, if this one doesn't have financial success, it maybe never gets to number 4.
Yeah. I feel like my understanding of this movie has maybe been a bit of like revisionist history on my part, where I've always understood it to be one that people initially rejected because Vin Diesel and Paul Walker were not in it. And it was like this weird shift to, oh, maybe we're just doing like an anthology series about cars globally with different characters, and they will be like loosely connected through various characters who pop up throughout, as opposed to like, I think people who are fans of the franchise, like who are like super fans of the franchise now, will typically point to like Fast 5 as sort of like the peak or turning point of the franchise, where it becomes this like really over the top, like kind of self-aware mega action franchise, as opposed to a franchise just about like people who enjoy car culture and are thrown into like various weird circumstances because of their love for cars. Like, right, like by the time we reach like Fast 8 or Fast 9 or whichever one we're up to now, they're just like spies, they're like superheroes. And I feel like that shift happens in Fast 5. So I'd always understood this one to be sort of like a weird throwaway that most fans and critics like rejected at the time. And it wasn't one of those movies until maybe like 15 years later that there was some sort of like reclaiming of it on the internet or whatever it may be, maybe at first slightly ironically, but then actual like appreciation for the movie started to like drum up from that. But it is interesting to hear that it like that wasn't necessarily the case, and I was just making things up.
Are you a fan of the franchise in general?
Not totally. I'm not like a big Fast and Furious head. I really
Me
like
either.
this one. I think this one is like easily my favorite of the franchise. I think 2 has a lot of like really cool stuff going on within it and is also super fun. And I think 5 is again just like way better of an action movie than it has any right being. It's just like a cool heist movie, and I think the rest of them are kind of shit. But I think those 3 to me really stand out as like really interesting, sort of like cool movies and good examples of like what could have been done within this franchise as opposed to the direction that it's currently going in.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think sort of what I liked about the franchise at the time that I liked it was that it was very sort of car centric and stunt heavy. And then as the stakes had to get raised again and again and again, a lot of that stopped being the case. It became more of a showcase for visual effects and for, the craziest possible like stunt sequences without actually doing stunts you could do. And so by the time that we started to get like a little long in the tooth and we're now on the back half of 5 and we're in like 6, 7 and 8, like I've seen maybe 2 or 3. I think I saw 9. And there's like a scene in one of the movies where Vin Diesel is like, I don't know if he's in the car or if he's on the hood of a car, but he gets like launched across a bridge and catches Michelle Rodriguez and then lands on the hood of another car. And like it just left realism behind where I felt like that was what made the franchise popular in the first place. And so going back and getting to watch Tokyo Drift again last night, I was like, most of this is real cars. There's very little CGI. I mean, like you can spot it here and there, like on some of the wide shots and some of the transition scenes where it's like you just can't film that any other way. But it wasn't reliant on that. And like I said a moment ago, where the emphasis on car culture is important to the beginning of the series, it just became like less and less about that. And so I had a lot of fun watching it, but I want to know, like, what was the first time you saw this? Like, were you a kid? You saw this in 2006 and you were all amped up. Was this something that you caught later in life?
I think I was definitely like aware of it in 2006. I guess to paint a little bit of a picture, I must have been in middle school or like early high school. So I was kind of like the prime demo for a movie like this, but I didn't really come across it. I've never been a car guy like at all. Like I don't even drive. So like car culture to me, it's like in real life, like not something that I care about, like even in the slightest. So, yeah, I didn't come to this movie until, I don't know, maybe like 6 years ago. And I watched it once and I was like, this is hilarious. This is like so absurd. I'm not a big Fast and Furious guy. But like, why is this dude from the South in Tokyo drifting with a Korean dude and like an Australian lady? Like, this is so absurd. That song is really cool. And I ended up watching it 4 times in 1 week. And it became like sort of like a ironic thing within like my friend group where we all were watching Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift together. And it started as a joke. And then I think I rewatched it a couple of years ago. And I, was thinking, I think I was watching it maybe within the context of the franchise as a whole. And I was like, this is actually a pretty cool movie that is interested in car culture in a really cool way and is like showcasing car culture in a way that some of the other Fast and Furious movies don't. And I am kind of upset that the franchise didn't lean more into, let's just be this like weird globe-trotting loose anthology of people around the world who are really into cars and they get themselves into hairy situations that involve them needing to drive fast somewhere, as opposed to like Vin Diesel being like the worst example of a movie star in the world and having like no screen presence whatsoever and like becoming a superhero spy. Like that to me is boring. And I think we left that behind in this movie. And I think that for me is like why this is the best Fast and Furious movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because as I watched it last night, I sort of like had this weird thing ping in my brain where I was like, oh, the Animatrix, like it takes place within the Matrix. We're sort of aware that Neo and them are there, but it's not
Mhm.
the story about them. And this could have been something. It's like, hey, we're going to go maybe to Australia. And it's like there's rally racers down there that are getting into trouble. And it's like you could have covered all these different like types of race scenarios. You could even fold in motorcycles at some point if you really want to. And it's funny that you mentioned the Vin Diesel thing too, because like he traded his appearance in this for the rights to the Riddick storyline, but that has gone nowhere. And he's cycled back into Fast and the Furious, and it's like the only thing that he does. And it's maybe the most successful current running franchise.
Yeah. I mean, it is also interesting to think about this movie or to think about this franchise in relation to like other big franchises of the 21st century, like big action franchises, at least. Um, I feel like the only, obviously there's like all the superhero stuff, but I think the like easy comparison is something like Mission Impossible, where
Yeah.
it is centered around a movie star who is like definitely building, using those movies to just like build their personal brand of who their on screen and off screen presence is. And that is like way more successful because Tom Cruise like understands how to be a movie star in a lot of ways that Vin Diesel does not. And I like don't know if part of it is like the influence of The Rock coming in and like The Rock also being really bad at being a movie star and just like trying to build a brand, and the two of those things like competing in the latter half of the franchise. But like when Vin Diesel pops up here, he's like good for the three lines that he delivers. And I feel like there was a moment in time where Vin Diesel could have been a really interesting actor in American Hollywood or whatever, and he just like decided to throw it all away. But like it would have been great if we just had like a random, like you said, like a random movie in Australia where they're doing rally racing, and then Paul Walker shows up for a scene, because he was also, you know, someone who he's like not a great actor, but he sort of like understood how to utilize like what he was as an actor for these movies and could do it in like a very limited space. I feel like I'm totally off the mark from whatever the question was that you asked, but just sort of like rambling about like what could have been in this franchise.
You know, I think that's important because, like, you bring up The Rock. He obviously shows up in the franchise to lend star power when maybe the executives are thinking, hey, we're like in the sixth, seventh movie. Like, what are we really doing here? I mean, I think they've since added John Cena. They brought in Charlize Theron into the franchise as well, Jason Statham. So they're like continue to stack the deck with star power because what was the first movie was not built on star power. It was built on the identity of the race and like the intrigue of car culture and like people that drag race for fun, for money, whatever. And then so now it's like, yeah, it's become this world of international espionage, and they're all sort of just like dragged into it, but then they're also like the only spies that can do it, sort of thing. So yeah, I get that you need to maybe bolster the cast with some big names, but then The Rock comes in, they sort of have a falling out as he goes and does Hobbs and Shaw with Jason Statham. That movie becomes the second lowest grossing film in the franchise, and then just sort of drives a wedge into the existing product and sort of makes the fans have to choose, like, well, are you, you know, part of the family, or are you like trying to hang out with Rock over here? So I think that's why this movie really began to interest me more the more I thought about it, because of where it lies in the sequence, and that it maybe was the only real successful spinoff in terms of like keeping its identity, because Hobbs and Shaw is like even more of an action movie where it's like, yeah, they're like basically just secret agents at that point, and those two characters realistically are in the story. So they're not even like just guys that drive and get into trouble and their driving skills get them out of it, like something like a Baby Driver, right, where he's robbing banks, he just happens to be a good wheelman. So it's not even that kind of story anymore. It's like The Rock is carrying a Gatling gun. It's like, what does this have to do with cars at all at this point? Like, I get there's probably a chase scene, and I think I saw it, but it's one of those movies where in one ear, right out the other.
Yeah. That I feel like that movie in particular is very like emblematic of like what the series has become, where it's just like, okay, we're like super tongue in cheek. We get that it's like way too over the top for what it's supposed to be. But going back to Tokyo Drift, like this is just a movie about a high school kid who gets himself into trouble with the Yakuza because he just like loves cars too much. And there's like there's beauty in that simplicity and in terms of like what the series could have been. I also think the shift from drag racing in the first two movies to drifting in this movie, like I think drifting is visually a much more pleasing like aesthetic to watch on screen than drag racing is. Although I think that there's like a lot of really cool, interesting like visual stuff happening in Too Fast, Too Furious. But I think for the most part, like you watch this movie and again, like Justin Lin, he's not Stanley Kubrick or whatever. He's not like creating these like amazing visuals that will like stand the test of time, but like he is like kind of interested in how the cars move both through the streets and through the mountains and like how the characters like within the car, like how it like there's like that scene where they're on the mountain and it's like kind of this like dreamscapey sort of vibe of them in the car talking to each other, and you can like feel that that's just you can feel this sort of like euphoria that they get when they're drifting within the car, and that's like not something that we get in the rest of the series. And I think it does a disservice to us as audience members that like we don't get to see things like that, where we don't get that like peek into the characters and like their obsession with cars and how it makes them feel and how they can't get away from it, even if it means that they are going to like get tied up with shady characters. They just like this dude just Sean has to race. He can't not race. He has no option. Like he is an addict. He is addicted to racing in a way that is like super, super interesting. And I hate that the rest of the series got away from that, because I think it could have been really cool if we sort of stuck with whatever that vibe is that's going on in this one.
Yeah, I think Lynn he understood the assignment, if nothing else. Like he appreciates the way, like you said, the way that the cars move, like what the visual aesthetic of drifting actually does. I think that first race where they film it inside not the first race, but the first drift race where they're inside the parking structure. It's like everything is very close quarters. It's all a lot of finesse, where up until that point in the franchise, it's a lot of American muscle cars, a lot of straight line speed. It's just a different kind of racing altogether. And to be able to bring somebody in that understands why that is appealing and why there is an entire culture that surrounds that, I think is pretty important. And I don't remember the movie that comes directly after this well enough, but I don't know, like this might have been the last one where like racing is actually a key feature of the movie, because once you start getting into like mostly heists and mostly espionage and jumping like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini from one building in Dubai to the other, like you're not like even racing anymore. Like, yeah, there's cars involved, but the identity of the characters and why they do the things they do is so closely tied to their desire to race early in the franchise that maybe losing that is where things start to get a little muddy.
Yeah, I think there's definitely within the first three movies, there's a lot of just like people who love to race. I also think that between the first three movies, and I apologize because I'm probably going to bring them up a lot, especially Too Fast, Too Furious, because like I kind of really dig that movie too. All three of them take place in three different cities. And right, the first one is in LA. LA obviously has like all of these like massive freeway systems where you can do, and like big open streets and boulevards and stuff where you can do drag racing. As you know, you live in LA, right?
I do.
And then the second one is in Miami. So like it's sort of like Miami also has like a very interesting car culture from what I understand. They're doing drug running there. So like makes sense with, just sort of like our understanding of Miami and like cocaine culture from there and all that stuff. And then in this one, like the geography is like so important to this movie. Like Tokyo as a city, obviously it doesn't have the same kind of infrastructure that we have within cities in the States to do that kind of like muscle drag racing. Like Tokyo as a city, it's like a lot of like really close quarters and like small streets and things like that. Like there aren't a lot of like big highway freeway systems where or like boulevards where you can do the kind of racing that you can do in Miami or LA. So like drifting becomes really important to understanding again the makeup of the city. And I thought that that was like a really another super interesting thing that this movie kind of highlights. I don't think it's like really good at capturing early 21st century Japanese culture, or like or like Japanese culture in general, or even like a Westerner's perspective of Japanese culture. Besides the fact that I think it is somewhat interested in like how the geography of the city and like the mountains nearby sort of like how that relates to the characters and their love for driving and like what can be done with that geography. Like he can't just show up and like do the same kind of racing that he does in Alabama or Texas or wherever he's from. Like he has to learn a totally new form of racing.
Yeah, definitely like fish out of water sort of Westerner going into Eastern culture, like in a lot of different ways. And the racing is sort of like the biggest metaphor for that. But I want to ask you if you prepared a synopsis haiku.
Oh, I did. What a great
Sweet.
transition talking about how this movie doesn't understand Japanese culture. So, in honor of the movie, I prepared a haiku that totally butchers and misunderstands and misrepresents all of what haikus are supposed to mean within Japanese culture. So,
Perfect. It's perfect.
very, very on brand for the film. Okay, so we've got Gaijin who can't drift. Han shows the ropes. What a pal. Oh, hey, Vin Diesel.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I always make sure to prepare one too, just in case. And I went maybe a little bit more like, not only is this not the first haiku I've had to write for a movie, this is not the first Yakuza movie I've covered either. So I feel like maybe a little bit sort of more dialed into what I wanted to say, but it did take some time. So I came up with there's blood in the race. Stereotypes run these streets. It all goes sideways. So a little
like
bit
that.
more open for interpretations, not so much
Yeah.
synopsis accurate.
You're more so capturing a like a feeling with your haiku, which I think is more so the point. It's supposed to be sort of like a meditative kind of poem and not necessarily something that just like describes actions that you're seeing. So I think I like that for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, it feels appropriate, and this movie's for its flaws, I think thematically it's trying to hold the line, even when it sort of fails. But I'll ask you now, why do you think somebody would say that this is a bad movie?
So I think going back to my revisionist history of the movie, I think that people who are fans of the franchise would say that it is like too much of a departure from what the rest of the franchise is, especially if you're someone who enjoys like the latter half of the franchise. I think you would dislike this because it's not true to that sort of vibe of what it has become. But I also think like, right, like if you're someone who enjoys movies for like strictly like narrative purposes, right? I think a lot of people just like want to watch movies because they want to consume narrative. This movie is like kind of nonsensical narratively, and like it's like not that layered really thematically or in like a literary kind of sense. Like I can totally see why someone wouldn't like it from like a plotting point of view or like a thematic point of view. They would think it's like too sort of like flimsy and again like not layered. And then like as an action movie, if you're someone who's just like I just want like a big dumb exciting action movie, it's like not all that thrilling. So right, you're not getting the sort of like Oscar baity, which is a term that I hate using. You're not getting that sort of like grand sweeping narrative, but then you're not getting like the great action. And then if you're a fan of the franchise, you're like, this isn't the Fast and Furious that I love. So
Fair.
I think you take those three, and that's kind of why I understand people to, not like this movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. If someone was like, that movie sucks, I'd be like, yeah, I get it. But I would be interested. I'm actually probably more interested than I've ever been to see a film about this Japanese car culture made in Japan by someone who's a lot closer to it, that isn't bringing in this sort of like Western influence that already existed from the franchise. So if it was an anthology where it's like, this is Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, and it's like all Japanese, and we're not even bringing in Lucas Black into this conversation, and we're going to just do it like, hey, what's going on with the Yakuza, and like, what is Han's story, and why is all this stuff going on? Like, I think there could have been a probably pretty good movie there, but we got what we got. And so now we're going to go back and we're going to look at the trailer from 2005, 2006, and we'll see.
Amazing.
We'll see what this was trying to tell us back then.
This trailer rewind is brought to you by the hottest new reality show of the summer. Behind every sideways screeching king of the underground stands a queen who's ready to turn heads and break necks if necessary. This season, buckle up for betrayal, burnout, and the blinding neon drama of Drift Queens, the real race wives of Tokyo. Whether they're running the garage, throwing shade at rival crews, or showing up at the finish line in heels, these women don't just support the scene, they are the scene. Speed, style, sabotage, and that's just episode 1. Catch all the shifting alliances, midnight confessions, and high-octane heartbreak on Drift Queens, the real race wives of Tokyo. Thursday nights at 10, only on New Torque Plus. And now, back to the show.
Trailers from like the early aughts. I feel like this is something that I have not experienced in quite a while. So excited to see what this is like.
I know. I imagine it's going to be very neon.
Ready. Set up.
Like, do you like cars and girls? This movie is for you.
What do you mean, Drift?
The cars are lighter. The tires are slick.
This is much more conventional than I thought it would be.
You ain't in control.
Showcasing all the real like car stunt work, though.
Yeah. There we go. That Universal logo. That was very 2006.
On the wrong side of the law. A new style of racing.
Trailer guy coming in for this one.
How you guys get away with this?
And all the best drivers want in.
Who's a tourist? Let's see what the kids got. Then let's race.
But when you live on the edge, anything can happen.
You came to the wrong place.
Now, in a place where life moves this fast.
That's a lot of money. Hey, you're moving up in the world. You gotta elevate your company.
So much faster than Texas.
Right.
The greater the rush.
Stay away from them.
All my life, people have told me I don't fit in. Maybe I've just been in the wrong place.
Japan has just been waiting for him.
Yeah. This is very like weeb who goes to Japan and finds himself, but like it's hard to describe this dude as a weeb.
Life's simple. Make choices. Don't look back.
I mean, it still looks fun.
Tokyo Drift.
If I had never seen it and you showed it to me, I'd be like, yeah, check that out.
If I'm in the theater in 2005, if I'm seeing what was that then, like The Day After Tomorrow or something, and that trailer pops up,
Right.
I'm turning to my buddies and I'm saying, that looks pretty sick. We should be back here next weekend.
I mean, that scene that it ends on with Han doing donuts around the girl's car, it's like it's sort of unspoken, like because he asks Han like, why do you drive, like why do you race, and he's just like, here, I'll show you. He's like, it's because I want to get girls.
Yeah. I mean, look, if we're going to be honest about like car culture and like dudes who are into car culture, I hope I'm not offending anyone in your audience who is a big car guy, but it's to impress girls. It's very much so just like dude who needs a way to like meet women. At least that's like the vibe that I get. Maybe it's not the vibe that they mean to give off, but it's kind of what you give off, car guys, and maybe you need like a new PR person to change that if it's not the case.
Fair enough. I mean, if you're not an athlete or a rock star or a movie star or something, it's like, all right, well, cars is my thing. But like my family's all women. I have 5 sisters. I've never met a woman who's like, damn, I really want to see someone lay down like a thick stripe and smoke it all up. It's like every time we're hanging out, like there's a like shopping center that's near us, and we'll go and we'll have dinner outside sometimes, and we can hear dudes like driving around and racing in like the upper levels of the parking structure, and then we go and we see like all the donuts and stuff, but they'll come down to the main stretch with their like super loud ass mufflers, and they'll try and like peel out, and it's like, this isn't impressing anybody that I know. So I get, maybe it's like, hey, I have a nice car, look at me kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think I've ever, I haven't met the woman who's like, yeah, I'm really into that.
I mean, yeah, I think whenever you hear the car with the muffler that is, weaving in and out of traffic or whatever, everyone's first thought is like, that guy sucks. Not, wow, that he might be the coolest person alive.
Right.
Yeah. just like learn to be funny or something. Like you'll have so much more. Like, also, like, Han is hot. Like, he's like a good looking dude. Like, he doesn't need to do donuts in order to get phone numbers.
Yeah, and for the most part, he sits around like eating mochi for a lot of the movie and like not doing that much. He's just like, yeah, I'm rich. I have great hair. I've got my friends. Yeah, I'm super cool. Like, I don't need to do any of this. And like, he's got invites to all the best parties in town.
Yeah.
Han's got it made.
Where life moves fast.
All right. Well, you ready for some trivia?
Yeah. Let's do trivia.
Time for trivia.
Okay. Let's see. Question number 1. This film was in limited release in Japan under what alternate title?
There's just no way that I'm going to guess this.
You might actually. It's that generic.
Okay. I want to say something about like a white racer, but I don't think that that's it. I don't know why I go to. I don't know why that's where my brain goes immediately.
It's the sequel to White Fang. It's White Racer. The alternate title is actually Wild Speed 3. So I'm really curious now if the original 2 films were also marketed as Wild Speed and not Fast and the Furious.
Interesting. Too wild, too speed.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay. Question.
Side note. Sorry. While we're here, before I forget about it, this is the best naming for a franchise that we have, right? In terms of all the sequel names, like it's, I don't think anything, just like the Fast and the Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious, the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, dropping the thes and just going Fast and Furious, Fast 5, so on and so forth. Like no film series has ever created a better naming system for their sequels.
That's a fair point. Like, even, yeah, it's not like Nightmare on Elm Street switches to like Nightmare on Maple Street, Nightmare on Oak Street,
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Question 2. While much of the film was done without permits in Tokyo, Han's fateful final race was made to look like Tokyo, but was actually filmed where?
I want to guess Los Angeles, but I don't know if...
Bingo.
Wow. How about that?
Who
Who would have thought?
They dressed up downtown with some neon, and they said, all right, this is Tokyo now.
Yeah, not to brag, but I have been to Tokyo, and that scene, it didn't look like the real Shibuya crossing, so I had some thoughts there.
Well, you are correct. All right, so that's 1 on the board for you. When we get to the wheel later. Let's see. Okay, question 3. Okay, for this one, we're going to do a little bit different. It's not, you don't need a specific answer, but I want you to take either the over or the under on the number of cars destroyed for the film. And I'm going to set the line at 100.
Over. I'll take the over.
Over indeed. It was over 100. I don't have the exact count, but they probably stopped counting. They're like, no, we've reached 100. That's fine. We're just going to give up on this at this point. But that's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of explosions. I mean, you had to make probably several of these stunt cars that you were using throughout the course of the film just because it's like, hey, these are still stunt drivers. If you make a mistake, you're going to need a backup. You probably have to make a couple of reshoots here and there. So it's a lot of cars, but I read that the production just went into Japan and was like buying up as many cars as they could. So that's because this movie doesn't really feel like an $85 million movie, except for the car element of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's 2. You're doing well. Let's see. I added a 4th one to the board just because that last one was a curveball as well. All right. So although Sean is supposed to be 17 years old, how old was Lucas Black when the movie was filmed?
I want to say 35, but I'm going to guess lower. He looks like he looks so old. I'm going to guess 27.
Pretty close. He's 23. But yeah, like that's one of the biggest hurdles in the movie is that this guy's walking around with like chest hair coming out of the top of his crew neck and a 5 o'clock shadow that he can't get rid of. And we're supposed to believe that he's high school aged or has like repeatedly flunked or been transferred so many times he's never been able to actually get to the next grade and get out of high school.
They grow him big in the South.
They do.
Right? Yeah, it's not grease bad. Like 23 is okay. Yeah.
23 is borderline. I mean, in Hollywood, that's pretty fair. But I mean, like, he doesn't look like a 23-year-old, where a lot of people that are 25, hey, maybe they look young enough to play 17, 18, even 19. It's like, okay, maybe they got held back. You make some excuses, but
yeah, Timothée Chalamet will be able to play 14-year-olds until he's like 42.
He might. He's got the look. But some fun bonus trivia is that Dom's cameo at the end of this movie was also the first time that they used the term family to encompass Dom's entire crew. So one of sort of like the linchpins of the franchise and sort of like maybe the most memeable thing about the franchise actually came from this movie.
Nice. Interesting.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. But again, points back to this movie maybe being a little bit more important to the franchise than people understand. This was also the first film in the franchise that was scored by Brian Tyler, and he has scored all of the films since, except for the other spinoff, which was Hobbs and Shaw. So again, you bring in the guy who's done the music for every movie since that in the franchise, which is pretty cool. Christopher Nolan loves the Fast and the Furious franchise, and he says he has a particular soft spot for Tokyo Drift, which is always weird to like see Christopher Nolan in the movies that he says he likes and like people's brains exploding because he makes the movie that wins Best Picture and people love him for being a great filmmaker. And then he's like, I like garbage. It's like, welcome to the club, Chris.
I am like a loud and proud Christopher Nolan hater. So it is very funny that we share a love for Tokyo Drift. Maybe I need to reconsider all of the negative things that I've said about Christopher Nolan being a hack.
The fact that you guys can both agree on this, like maybe there's some common ground there. Oddly enough, I randomly saw Christopher Nolan, like I almost ran into him face to face just at a movie one afternoon. Like he was with his kids, I think. And
that's hilarious.
I was on my phone and I was getting ready to leave. I think I was probably like putting the movie on Letterboxd or something. And yeah, he walked like right by me and I was like frozen. I was just like, was that Christopher Nolan? Am I tripping? Like, what is he doing here? This does not seem like a place that I would see this man. And I was like, let me see. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's him. I look up his picture. I show my wife. She's like, yeah, that's the guy. I'm like, that's crazy. All right. Well, he just will randomly go to an afternoon movie at some like junky theater. Good for him.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Chris, if you're listening, reach out to me. We can let's watch Tokyo Drift together and hang out. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm extending the olive branch.
Probably the most interesting trivia that I saw that wasn't like car specific, which there is a ton of interesting like car specific trivia, but I'm not a car guy either. So I don't really have any, I don't have any like frame of reference for all of that trivia. But interestingly enough for Sean, when he arrives in Tokyo, he's going up the escalator. I'm looking in the background, I'm like, why is there so much MC Hammer stuff in the background here? And as it turns out, MC Hammer was very important in getting Justin Lin's other film, Better Luck Tomorrow, financed. So he wanted to just like, show him some love and repay the favor. And I was like, I mean, yeah, Japan is always a little bit like behind the curve, like in terms of American trends. So maybe Hammer's just getting popular in 2006. But as it turns out, this movie is retconned to be taking place in 2013. So it's all very muddy.
The retconning it's absurd because this movie is so 2006.
Oh, yes. It feels like if you had to come up with a list of movies from 2006 that just define that year in cinema, not even necessarily good stuff, but just stuff from that era, you could definitely put this on the list, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Too Fast, Too Furious is more 2002 or 2003 than this movie is 2006, but this movie is still aggressively 2006. Like the music, the style, the like technology is extremely 2006.
Right. Let's get our flip phones out. Good use of the flip phone cameras, though.
Yeah, great use of the flip phone camera. I still think we're waiting on a movie that utilizes smartphones in a useful way, but also like Bow Wow is at one point playing on like a PSP, like the portable PlayStation thing, which is like the most 2006 thing I've ever seen. I think that thing was only around for like 4 months during that year and has never existed outside of that time frame. So you can't tell me that this movie exists at any time other than 2006.
Yeah, the Jordans that he busts out on the table are also like very specifically part of that era. The iPod as well. It's like, it's not the first iPod, but it's one of the first because it's still pretty small. It's got the wired headphones. Okay, so it's like everything, like even the Jordan outfit that he's wearing is sort of like from that era as well. So, like you said, very aggressively 2006. All right, well, after trivia, we go to the bonus wheel. And for your benefit, I have recently beefed up the wheel. There was some question that I was thinking of while watching the movie last night, and I was like, this would be a great question for the wheel. And then I forgot it. And then I decided, you know what? I'll still add some questions to the wheel. So you might get some of the fun hypotheticals, but you get a full 2 spins. And then we've got some other hypothetical stuff I'll ask you later. Well, let's see. Hopefully you get one of the new ones. Uh-oh. Hopefully get there. Okay. This is a new one. It's perfect. And because you and I are both podcasters, it's extra fitting. You can choose up to 3 characters from this movie to start a podcast. Which characters are you choosing, and what is their podcast about?
Okay, so it's not me starting a podcast with these characters or like characters who I'm interviewing on a podcast. The first one is Sean's dad, because I think that guy has seen some stuff, and I want him to unpack some of his deepest, darkest traumas. You know, he seems to drink everything away, and I think getting in front of a microphone and broadcasting that to the internet would be good for him and good content for us. So Sean's dad is definitely number 1. Wow, who would be number 2? I think number 2 would be Bow Wow's character, because he's a yapper, and sometimes on a podcast, all you need is a yapper. He'd be good on like Twitch. That character would be amazing on Twitch. Like, let that dude stream him playing Fortnite for like 5 hours straight. That's going to be good stuff. You're going to get, he'll sell some laptops along the way, you know.
He's a good salesman.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And then number 3, this is so hard because there are so many like characters who you just like know would be so uninteresting in real life in this movie. I'm gonna say DK's uncle.
Yeah. Okay. Yakuza
I don't think
boss?
he's going to give anything away about, the underworld of the Yakuza, but he still might. Maybe look, he's a well-connected guy. Tokyo is an amazing culinary city, so much good food. He's got to be plugged in. Give that guy a food podcast where he's just giving us the best restaurants in Tokyo. He doesn't even have to tell us about all of his crime dealings.
Yeah.
Just tell us about the best places to eat.
So yeah, we got Twinkie, who's going to be like the personality. We got
Yeah.
Sean's dad, who is going to drink and tell us war stories. And then we got Uncle, who's going to sit there smoking his cigars, laughing at the pettiness of the other two. And
Oh shit, they're on the
tell us-
same podcast?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was doing 3 separate shows.
That's fine.
But
Maybe
honestly-
I need to refine that question a little bit more.
But honestly, maybe throwing all 3 of them together.
Yes, I would listen to this.
You get something. You get some weird stuff. Something weird for sure.
Well, like 2 of, I think, like just things that stood out to me while watching the movie. Like number 1, when Sean shows up to his dad's place, his dad is banging some hooker, I think. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, well, obviously, like his parents are divorced. There's some stuff going on, but like you show up and your dad doesn't know what day it is. He's got a hooker in there. Like, obviously, Sean's going to be at odds with his dad. And there's some skeletons in the closet there. And I want to know, like, why his dad's in Japan, like what he did with the Navy, like where is the trauma coming from? So I find that to be a good reason to put him on the show. But then also, I think it punches down a little bit at Tokyo, or at least Japanese culture, for like a good 40 minutes in that, oh, muscle cars are great. America's great. He gets here. He doesn't like the outfit. And then he goes to the cafeteria at lunchtime and he looks at the food, and him and Bao are both like, oh, yeah, it's just kind of whatever. And it's like, the food looks amazing. What are you idiots talking about? You want to go eat some American cafeteria slop?
When I was getting in trouble in high school, I wish someone shipped me to Japan. Like,
yeah.
Oh man, that sucks, dude. You got to leave bumfuck Texas to go to Tokyo. That sucks, dude. You got to eat like amazing sushi all the time and like be around this like vibrant culture. Oh, terrible. So what a shame. What a punishment.
Yeah, he's like, I have to wear these stupid shoes.
Yeah, everything's
clean. Yeah, everything's clean. Public transport. Like, some dude that you don't know was like, sure, drive this custom car that's worth probably $100,000 that I've been working on. That's my masterpiece. Go ahead, wreck it. Whatever. I just want to see your character. That's not happening back home. Back home, you're getting thrown in jail. So I felt like, I feel like some of the identity of the story was a little bit like too much focused on that aspect of like, yeah, we want to sort of joke and make fun of how different it is. And I'm just like, why though? Like, well, I get that you have to turn the corner and eventually the story is like, oh, he really appreciates these things. And like when he talks to Han, like Han gives him these very like insightful, the spiritual things that he tells him about life. And so like you start to turn the corner, and I get that it's like that redemption arc curve for this character that you thought was kind of like a hillbilly, and he gets to be, redeemed in the end because he actually does like Japan.
Not to be like super like geopolitical dude, but also if we just think about when this movie came out and we're talking about how it's aggressively 2006, like early aughts America is very much so America versus the world. And I think more so than like a lot of other times in US culture, like anything that is other from us is like seen as like really shitty. I think this was like sort of before the I don't think that this is going on video anywhere, but like you can see behind me, I have an Akira and a Seven Samurai poster. Like this was like before the time when it was like cool as a Westerner to be like obsessed with Japanese culture.
That's true.
So I kind of like understand why he has those feelings towards Japan, but it still like is kind of weird. Like it like no place should we be like, oh man, like this is so shitty. Like this isn't, Texas or Alabama or whatever, but Japan of all places, it's like really weird.
Well, especially when what they show us of America at that point is like a high school full of like the shittiest kids, the most spoiled kids. I'm like, this kid brought his dad's Dodge Viper to school. I'm like, come on. I was like, this is like douchebag 101. So I was like, I just feel like the stereotypes were layered on like very, very heavy early on in the film on both sides. But in order to sort of like give us the whole disarming fish out of water experience. But to your point, like I grew up with like Godzilla and Ultraman, and like, you know, this was in late 80s, early 90s, and like it was not cool to like those things. Like I was a nerd for liking those things.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it is a really interesting like fish out of water and like where we're taking the fish and where we're plopping the fish. And it really, I think that like a movie like this kind of only works, or a story like that only works in like 2006. Like you do that today, and I don't think that people will sort of like receive it the same way and think that, yeah, man, that really sucks that they shipped you off to Japan.
Yeah, it feels like Sean would sort of be like the butt of the joke, but the audience is in on it if this movie is made today. It'd be like, look at this like racist hick dude from Alabama going in here and like disrespecting this other culture that's been nothing but nice to him.
Yeah.
So like
he didn't put ketchup on his sushi or whatever.
Right.
Like he makes a line and it's like, yeah, this food is so gross, everything needs ketchup. Whereas like now the joke would be like, this guy is such a bozo that he like wants to put ketchup on everything.
Exactly. So it does feel dated in that way. And, you know, like you said, sort of the height of American exceptionalism post 9/11 and stuff. So maybe understandable. But again, I was like, I would love to be Sean in this situation. Like, please punish me and send me to Tokyo. Like, I was just
seriously,
like, is this a punishment? Was it a punishment then? Or is he just like, man, I really want to like drive through some development with my car and hang out with these douchebags? Like, I don't know. A little just like off-putting to start, but I understand why. Let's see. Okay, well, you still got one more question on the wheel. I'm glad you got one of the new ones, though. Let's hope that cycles back through.
That was a good question. I like that one, even though I totally messed it up.
No, I want to listen to that podcast with the three of them. Okay, so if you could swap out an actor in this film, which actor are you choosing and why?
Or someone else in 2006, I'm assuming.
Yeah, if you can, I guess.
Or just like someone to swap out. I don't have to pick someone who I'm swapping in.
Yeah, you can just choose who you would get rid of in the movie and recast given the choice.
I think this is going to sound really mean, but I would recast the Australian young woman because she has like a Lego head, and I find it very distracting throughout the entire movie.
This is the main love interest, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean,
it's a really rude reason to swap someone out.
That's also true, but like her character, unfortunately, is there mostly as the love interest and sort of to be the bridge between him being like very sort of passively racist to just being like, oh no, he's a cool white boy in Japan now. And so like her character is necessary, but like I don't know if she went on to like do anything beyond this movie. So I don't know that her presence as the actress is going to be like the defining characteristic of the performance.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think everyone else, I know, I think a lot of the criticism, which I didn't mention before in terms of like why people don't like this movie, is the main actor whose name I'm forgetting. People find him to be like extremely dull and find
Lucas
him to be Lucas Black. People don't like him as an actor, but I think he's kind of perfect for the role. Like you sort of need someone who is dull in all of the ways that he is dull in order for it to work. And I think everyone else really sort of like fits their role really well. I think Bow Wow, especially like in 2006, is like perfect as Twink.
Yeah, he's good.
Han is the guy who plays Han. He's probably the best actor and like the most captivating as just like a screen presence. So you're obviously not going to swap him out. And then everyone else is like pretty serviceable. I think she's serviceable too. I just find her head to be distracting.
Well, funny you mention Lucas Black in that context, because I had to think to myself, like, did he ever get brought back for one of the other movies? And I think he did. It was either 7 or 9. They brought him back, but like him and Bow Wow were rocket scientists at that point. So like, I don't know if that counts. Yeah, they work in Rocketdyne or something. It's wild. But like you said, Han is probably the most charismatic, most interesting character in the film. And they're like, no, we need this guy. If we're going to keep making these movies, like, we definitely want him to be involved. Whatever. He didn't die. This movie's in the future. All of the other stories we're about to tell are in the past, and it's all good. So, they took the good and they left the rest. Fair. Okay, before we move on, is there anything else, like, specifically that you really wanted to talk about that we have not gotten a chance to talk about yet?
Wow, what my notes are so chaotic. One of the dumbest notes that I have is Bow Wow's first line is he says something about don't ask, don't tell, and then he introduces himself as Twinkie, aka Twink. Yeah. And I wrote queer icon ?
I kind of thought the same thing too, because I didn't like pay attention to his name when he was first introduced. I was like, I know who he is. I'm just sort of like loosely watching for other things. And then later Han is like, go ask Twink to get him a bunk. And I was like, he's got a friend named Twink? And then I turn around and I'm like, oh, he's the guy. So I was like, I wonder if this was coded at that time intentionally for that reason, or if this was like, hey, we're not really like paying that close of attention. It's 2006. So I'm like, could go either way, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think that this movie is like, and I don't think Lynn is like intentional enough as a director to do that. But like, right, the argument could be made. He does talk about girls a lot, but you never actually see him like with a like companion or anything. Yeah. And I think that this franchise and this movie is kind of like a weird sort of turning point within it. But like, this franchise is kind of like oddly progressive in a lot of ways, even though it's about car culture, which is like typically seen as like not being that progressive. But like, a lot of the future movies have like female characters with like decent agency and things like that. But this one also has like a lot of like the main Australian woman is like just there to be the love interest, and also like a lot of the girls just exist to like dance sexy next to cars.
Yeah.
So it is like it does exist in like this weird like in between of being like somewhat forward thinking, but maybe not like all the way there. And again, that like the name Twinkie could just be like a throwaway or whatever, or it could be some like, some deeper meaning of Bow Wow being a queer icon in 2006.
It's possible. I wouldn't be shocked if it was confirmed that was true. And then I wouldn't be shocked if it was the opposite as well. They'd just be like, oh no, I don't know. He likes Twinkies and we needed to give him a name. So we just gave him one. Could be. It's that kind of movie.
This is the only podcast where you can come to for Tokyo Drift Talk that includes post 9/11 geopolitics and and queer representation within the Fast and Furious franchise.
Look, that's what I'm here for, is to really like get into the nitty gritty of what these movies are about and speculate on what they could be about or what we wish they were about. But was there anything else that you wanted to get to, or are you ready to move on to Critics Corner?
No, I think I'm pretty much ready. I've mentioned everything else. Sean being an addict character, like he's addicted to cars, and he is willing to throw himself into extremely dangerous circumstances with like very dangerous people just because he like can't get away from racing. And even like after his first race, he comes home and his dad is like, he like looks him in the eyes and he's like, "You've been racing," and Sean has this look on his face of like
busted,
like. Yeah, like he's busted. Like when you like come home when you're like 16 and your mom's like, "Were you drinking tonight?" And you like know that she can smell the Coors Light on your breath, and it's like he knows that his dad can smell the racing on his breath. It's like
smell it. And his dad's sitting there like, he's got 6 beers deep on the coffee table, and he was just waiting for him. He's like, "I knew you had been racing."
Yeah, you've been using again.
Yeah. I mean, so again, like this movie is an addiction metaphor. Like, I don't think it is adept enough to like fully articulate it, but I think it's aware enough to include some moments like that. Like, it doesn't have the language to fully have the conversation about it being an addiction driven problem, but there's a lot of the window dressing for it, where his dad is like, there's no other option besides this in jail, like all this, like if you keep going down this road, you're gonna die stuff. But then in the end, this is like, no, the addiction is good. The addiction is great. And like, there's a life for you with this addiction. So it's sort of like loses the thread on that, but it starts like in a place that is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think that this movie, like you said, is like adept enough to like know that it is maybe talking about any of these things that it might be talking about.
Like, oops, but, did we mean that? Oh, okay, cool.
It's like, it's there, and like maybe you have to be a psycho who has seen the movie like 20 times to start like picking up on things like that. And maybe like that's where we are, and we should just be enjoying it because there's cool drifting and an amazing song that came out of it. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to mention before we go to Critics Corner.
Yeah.
The Tokyo Drift song is a top 5 original song ever written for a movie. It's up there with like Eye of the Tiger, Kiss from a Rose, the song from Titanic. Like it's up there. It's top 5 for sure.
I mean, it is very iconic because I didn't know it off the top of my head, but as soon as it started, I was like, okay. And then I think I had the subtitles on or something, and it said like it was playing that titled song. And I was like, oh, this is an original for this movie. Okay. So I'm right there with you. I think it fits the bill. You know, when I was looking, like I was just like posting about that. I was watching this the other night, and this, of all the movies that I talk about, people were like, this movie rules. So I was like, okay, I guess people really do like this movie. But yeah, the song was available for like Instagram or whatever. So yeah, iconic in that way. But before I forget, I went on a friend show and we were talking about John Carpenter's Christine, and that movie sort of being a metaphor for addiction. And I was like, that movie handles it much, much better, as you see like this guy slowly degrading into madness over the course of him working on his car. And so I was like, that's a car movie that actually does sort of focus on the addiction side of things and can handle making the comparisons, where this movie, like you said, I don't think it's interested in making the comparison. It just maybe happenstance. But all right, let's head over to Critics Corner, and we'll hear, well, hopefully not the too horrible things that people had to say about this, but we always start on the bottom of the board. This has a 45 Metascore, and we're starting with a 38. So at least we got some room to climb. And this is James Berardinelli from Real Views. He says it's all about eye candy and the quick tease. It's not over fast enough.
It is about the eye candy.
Yeah.
But like, is that not why we go to the cinema, to like see eye candy? And this is a movie that is really aware of its identity. It's a movie that is about the eye candy of what it looks like to race or drift race cars in Tokyo parking lots. So like, if it's not going to be eye candy, like I just don't know like what you want out of a movie that is about that particular subject matter other than eye candy. Like, we are not here for the geopolitics or queer representation or a discussion about addiction. We're here to see cars do cool stunts. And a lot of times those cars are going to be like painted pretty colors because like that's what's cool to look at. And they're in Tokyo where there's a bunch of neon signs, and like that's also cool to look at. So yeah, it's eye candy. That's what it's supposed to be.
I guess James was in it for the geopolitics, but
yeah.
Oh well. All right, we'll climb the board. We've got a 40 from the Austin Chronicle. It is not attributed. It just says racing junkies would be better off browsing the myriad of online drifting videos where the camera doesn't cut and the people don't speak.
Again, just like failing to understand just like cinema in general. Yes, there's this thing called editing, and it is used at times to express certain creative desires, including like the way that a car is moving through a parking lot. Or hear me out. We need editing because we have to get from one scene to the other, and we don't just want like wide shots of cars drifting. That's boring. That's not fun. We are trying to create something that is like exciting and engaging for people as viewers to watch. So like there's no reason to poo-poo this movie aiming to create that viewing experience.
That's fair. And I am honestly a fan of the editing in this movie. I didn't think so. And then watching it again and like actually taking notes and paying attention to that kind of stuff. There's a couple of scenes in particular. One, when DK is first drifting in the parking structure and he sort of swings the tail of his Nissan by the wall, and you sort of like zoom in from an actual shot. You switch to digital and you get in real close and you show that he's like an inch from the wall. I think that's a cool shot. Excuse me. And that in that same sequence, there's like, I don't know if it's a crane shot, but probably they're like top down, and you're seeing him come and drift around the corner of one of these concrete pillars. It's like, in order to really capture what this is, and I think a lot of what the movie is doing is sort of being a translator for the audience is Lucas Black. We're coming from drag racing and muscle cars and American culture, and now we're getting dropped in this other world. So like, show us why that is cool and why drifting actually matters. And I feel like the movie actually does a really good job of like explaining that and showing it to us. So I really like the editing. And even though there's some CGI shots that weren't great, there's one where they're coming down the mountain facing the camera, and it's a pretty seamless cut from the digital cars to the real cars that then drift right in front of the camera. But I was like, okay, I can see it, but it's done well. And I feel like the editing and the pacing and the style of the movie are like its best flavors.
I think so, which is why I'm getting so riled up by these by these critics. And like, I mean, I don't want to get into like my larger thoughts on like film criticism and like how silly a lot of our approaches are to it. But I think these first two folks, like they're not being honest with themselves about how they're critiquing this particular movie.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to meet a movie where it is, and you can't bring in your own stuff. Just gotta sit down and watch it. But all right, we'll move up. We've got 5 50s on the board. So I'm going to let you pick two of them, but we've got Premiere, Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, the AV Club, and the Seattle Post-Intelligencer.
Is the Tribune, is that Ebert or?
It is not. It is Michael Wilmington.
Let's go with him and the AV Club.
All right. We'll start with Wilmington at the Tribune. He says, for all its crashes and flash, this is a movie that drifts away as we watch it. Muscle cars and all, it's often a waste of gas. So there's not even that many muscle cars. Did he not watch the whole movie?
He just really wanted to get off the sentence, muscle cars and all, it's a waste of gas, which sure, I guess that's like a good
zing.
That's a good zing, right? That's a good stringing together of like words in the English language to talk about a car movie. But what was the first part of his?
For all its crashes and flash, this is a movie that drifts away as we watch it. He's like, I'm so clever.
Yeah, super clever. Again, drifts away as we watch it. You're sort of like expecting too much from this film from a narrative perspective. It's extremely straightforward in like what it is doing narratively. And I get that, once we just get into the latter half of the movie, it's maybe not as strong as the first half of the movie in terms of like creating a vibe and like an aesthetic and like a clear like atmosphere or whatever. But it's still like, it's still like competent in how it resolves a standard like film script towards the end. I think that this Wilmington guy just wanted to show all of his car puns.
Yeah, I would be interested to read the rest of that review, but I don't know that I would give it the time. All right, we got AV Club. That's Scott Tobias, who I know on Twitter. We're not like buddies or anything, but I know the name. I've interacted with him before. Also gave it a 50. Says the racing sequences are the series' meat and potatoes, but in terms of story, Tokyo Drift barely offers a stalk of asparagus. At least he didn't go with car puns.
No, didn't go with car puns, which is cool. And sorry, I feel like I've been super aggressive to all of these critics who, who are real people and, have feelings about the things that they write and the art that they create. But I will still fight all of them.
You challenge them to a drift race down the side of the mountain.
Exactly. Meet me in a Tokyo parking lot in 3 days. Yeah. Yeah, I think again, just like I understand that film is at its core a medium that is about telling stories, but I think when we boil it down to like just that, we lose so much of the film watching experience. And I just like I'm not going to come to a movie like this for a extremely riveting narrative. And I think we can allow ourselves to be swept up in everything else that is positive in this movie, whether it be highlighting and showcasing the racing and the stunt work. Again, the geography of the city, things like that. Like, right, like we can appreciate all of those things and like not necessarily be so concerned about story, because that's not the only thing that's happening here. And there's a lot within the art form to celebrate beyond just story. And if you're doing those things well, that is just as worthy of celebration as a movie that is just like really boring in all of the other art forms, like editing and shot composition, photography, scoring, all that stuff, but like has a good story. Like we're more likely to elevate those movies than we are a movie that maybe downplays story and is more focused on some of the other aspects. And I just like don't think that that's the right way to watch movies. I think that we like can enjoy this movie and get a lot out of it beyond just like the story, which, yes, super simple, very straightforward, not all that riveting, but does allow us space to explore all of these other things.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, like Han gives a very interesting answer to the question when Sean asks him, like, why did you let me race your car? The car's worth a lot of money. I did a lot of damage. And Han tells him, like, I have money. Like, what I need are like people that are of high character. And probably paraphrasing, but he says something along the lines of, the people you keep around you let you know who you are. And I was like, that's actually something that's profound to be said in this movie. And it's an interesting look at the philosophy of a character who isn't the main character. And, because the movie is set in Japan, because you could get into a lot of, that's what I was saying earlier. Like if there was a version of this movie that was made by a Japanese filmmaker, like focused on all of that stuff, you could have that kind of movie that is very narrative driven. But at the end of the day, this is Fast and the Furious, Yeah. So, I mean, even before all the other movies came, like you saw the first two, right, guys? You know what this is.
Yeah.
So they're being a little bit harsh, but I understand. But it seems like the common thread is like, hey, this movie's got a lack of story. Fair enough. We've got 370s on the board to close it out. I'll let you pick two again. And we've got The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, and LA Weekly.
Don't love my allies here. I'll go LA Weekly and Hollywood Reporter.
All right. Well, LA Weekly, as Scott found us, says Manna from Gearhead Heaven. The third and most guiltily pleasurable Furious amidst the crude thrills of a 1950s drag racing cheapie, only with souped-up Toyotas and Nissans in place of gas-guzzling hot rods and slinky Asian temptresses substituted for poodle-skirted teeny boppers. There you go. Scott's like, I know what this movie is.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting comparison to sort of like the muscle movies of like the 50s or whatever. Like the more that we're talking about it, I'm thinking about like Death Proof and how that is just like a love letter to the like stunt work of muscle movies from like the 70s and stuff, which, you know, we're not going to those movies for plot or anything. We just want to showcase like amazing stunt work and like these like incredible cars and what they are as machines. So like I think the movie does a good job with that. So yeah, totally agree with Scott.
Yeah, I like that because, like, hey, this is what you want out of this movie. If you're a car guy, you get the car stuff. If you're a fan of like race movies that feature sort of like machismo and scantily clad women, you got that too. So like, don't complain. But we'll go to the Hollywood Reporter and close it out with Kirk Honeycutt. Says it's not much of a movie, but a hell of a ride. So what if the movie dumbs down Japanese culture to a bad Yakuza movie and features Japanese characters who can barely speak Japanese? The cars are the stars here. Everything else is lost in translation. They're still getting a little cute with the puns, but
yeah,
kind of nails the overall tone and the takeaway I think that I've had with this movie.
I think I don't know if this is the last one that you're doing, but I feel like that's a really good one to end on. Like, oh, yeah, movie is not good at representing Japanese culture at all. But if that's what you're looking for, there are like hundreds of other movies that you can watch.
There's so many. Japanese cinema is very good. You got a bounty to check out.
Yes, we are not coming to Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift to learn about Japanese culture and all of its complexities. But what we do want to see is people drifting through the streets, and it looks cool. It pops. It's again, it has like, I think like a fairly clear artistic vision. It's not like the most impressive in terms of its like visual language or anything, but it is interesting enough in terms of what it is like trying to communicate and show to us. So yeah, I can pass aside the like kind of racist, really flimsy representation of Japanese people who don't even speak Japanese. Like everyone just speaks English over there, which is like, that's cool. That's the Japan that I want to go to, where it's like, it's still Tokyo, but everyone speaks English and I can understand all of them. So I feel like that one kind of it hit the nail on the head.
It's a good it's a good review to close out with.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got a segment that I like that I haven't done as much of as I would like. So I'm glad that I put it on the outline so we could actually do it. But this is more or less. So I want you to give me something that you want more of in the movie and something that you want less of in the movie.
Something I want more of in the movie is drifting, obviously. I think again, give me less story and give me just more excuses to create cool visuals around people drifting. That's what the movie needs to be. Give us more of that. Give me less women only existing to dance sexy around cars. I just find it to be like gross and weird. And women don't just need to exist to like wear mini skirts and dance next to a car. Let's like allow them to be racers or whatever, or characters otherwise. Maybe they're in the Yakuza or whatever. But
yeah. All right. Cool. I like that. Well, now we come to the gateway drug movie. So what's a good movie for somebody who maybe has never seen Tokyo Drift, but they're interested in car movies? What's something that is maybe better known or more popular that might get them to take the leap and push play on Tokyo Drift?
Yeah, so I've got two. I wanted a third. Because this is like a really interesting, or not really interesting. Maybe I'm giving the movie too much credit. But it is an interesting fish out of water high school, like coming of age movie. Kind of hard to brainstorm similar movies, like
Yeah.
kind of like the closest I could come to was like Back to the Future, but like that doesn't even really feel like all that related. So I think, yeah, find some other like maybe like Varsity Blues, but I might just be doing that because of like Southern accents. So find yourself a good high school movie. And then the other two, in terms of car movies, the obvious one within the franchise, check out Fast Five because it is a really good action movie. It's within the Fast and Furious franchise. I believe Han is in that one too. So like you'll know the character from that. And then the other car movie that I would recommend, and this is more so like kind of like a gateway drug to like Too Fast, Too Furious, but I think it works here as well because of the visual language that that this movie could have like reached if it were maybe directed by someone who had just like a bit more artistic vision is Speed Racer. The Wachowski sisters Speed Racer is like a really, really, really awesome movie about racing that has like an insane visual language and is like all eye candy, and very, very, very expressive. And like obviously this movie taking place in Tokyo could have like leaned into the sort of like anime aesthetic of drifting and racing culture and things like that in a way that like could have been like really, really freaking cool. So check out those two and then watch Speed Racer, or check out those two and then watch Tokyo Drift. And I think you'll have a good time.
That's interesting. I've heard a lot more people be a lot higher on Speed Racer within the last couple of years than anybody was when it initially came out. And I've never seen it, but I've heard more and more people just say like, it's good, check it out. And it seems like it'd be up my alley anyway. I like Emil Hirsch.
I think you'd like it. You've mentioned Animatrix, and you've mentioned that you were into
Godzilla,
like Ultraman. Yeah. So I think you would be like a prime candidate to enjoy that movie.
Well, sounds good to me. I know I've got a little bit of other sort of like movie homework I need to do for some other episodes, but I'm going to make sure I get Speed Racers somewhere in the mix there. I was trying to think of movies too that sort of felt like this movie. And I think as much as it doesn't, well, it involves cars like very, very lightly, but I would say the original Karate Kid, but probably more accurately, the Karate Kid remake is closer plot and storyline wise to this movie. So if you were watching that one, you could line the two of them right up next to each other. And it's like, oh, fish out of water story, sort of like getting bullied in school, learns from older Japanese character, like something specific to Japan, and then uses that to combat the bully. So it's like almost like tailor made to be the exact same movie.
Yeah.
And the original Karate Kid, it's like, okay, a little bit of the Western culture meets Eastern culture, like misunderstandings, also a little bit of cars, but not really like fancy cars, but bullying and all that. New kid, new town, new school, new bullies, love interest, like all of the tent poles of that kind of film.
Nice. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, sorry, there will be no cars involved, but a lot of people have seen the Karate Kid. So just think of this as, the Karate Kid, but instead of karate, it's drifting.
Yeah. The drifting kid.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we got a little bit of time. Do you want to do some word association?
Yeah, I would love to.
I don't do it very often on the show because I always forget. I was like, oh, this is fun. And then I never do it. Okay. So clear your mind. Blank slate. I'm going to give you 5.
My mind is always clear.
I'm going to give you 5 words, and you just give me like the first word or phrase that comes to your head. All right.
Let's do it.
Okay. Drift.
Tokyo.
American.
Hot dog.
Yakuza.
Katana.
High school.
I feel so inappropriate. High school, making out under the bleachers.
Han.
Zimmer.
Cool. There we go. Perfect.
That felt like a weird, like Rorschach test of sorts. Like I feel like I should be sitting on like a therapist couch, on like a therapy couch, taking that test.
Well, when I'm not doing this, I work in mental health. I'm not a therapist, but that's probably where I got it from.
You're just asking people what they think when they hear Yakuza.
Yeah. Well, like accidentally, or at least unintentionally, there was a point where I did like 4 Yakuza movies in a row. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, why are all of these stories from like the late 80s and early 90s focused on the Yakuza being this huge threat?
Yeah. A huge threat to us.
Yeah.
I can't believe I said katana for that. I felt a little cancelable.
Well, I mean, look, there was no katana in this movie, but a lot of the other Yakuza movies that I covered, there's definitely a katana in there. And I do like the small touch in this that the guy who works for the Yakuza boss at the end of the movie, who starts the race, when he throws his hands up to signal the race, you can see that he's missing his ring finger and his pinky finger on both hands. So they have been severed at that point, which again is like very specific to the Yakuza, but it's not like talked about in this movie. But yeah, he's got little stubs. And I was like, oh, okay. There is a Yakuza movie here somewhere. It's just not quite there.
Yeah. There are a lot of movies that are sort of like bubbling under the surface of this movie that could have been.
Yeah.
But
I think that makes it interesting though.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's the end of everything I got for you, but I want to give you an opportunity to plug the show that you do. Tell my audience where they can find you. You got like social medias that you want to plug or anything?
Oh yeah. I mean, if anyone from your lovely audience has listened to this and thought I need more of this bozo rambling, you can check me out rambling on the Canon and Essential Movies watch list. That podcast is available on all major podcasting platforms as well as YouTube. We typically have episodes come out every Wednesday. We do seasons, so sometimes I'll take a month off here and there, but otherwise we're available in your podcasting feeds every Wednesday. You can check out, I don't know if the show has its own social accounts, but you can check out Screen Age Wasteland and I believe Screen Age Podcasts on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Instagram. I believe Screen Age Wasteland as a website also has a Facebook page. If you are at all interested in my extremely silly and dumb thoughts about movies and other things, mostly New York sports, you can follow me or check me out on all social media platforms, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, at RafStit, all one word, RAFSTITT. Also available on Letterboxd, giving really bad reviews of movies there. Reviews that I think are insightful and then realize are just nonsensical. But Raf's it there as well.
Cool. I'll make sure all that stuff is up in the show notes. And I think I can say in at least moderate confidence that people listening to this show do like a bozo rambling. So I think you might get some listeners if they haven't listened to your show. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I was super happy actually to watch this movie. I didn't know whether or not I was going to sort of like hate it. I didn't know if I was going to love it. I was kind of on the fence. Turns out my wife was like a secret collector of the original 5 movies. So she had like all 5 of them on Blu-ray unopened. So I cut it open last night and I was like obsessing over how functional the Blu-ray menu was. Cause I put it in my Xbox and I can just like touch the joystick and it pulls up the whole menu while the movie's playing. And I was like, this is the best interactive Blu-ray menu I've ever used. And she's like, are you high? I'm like, no, this is just great. All the rest of the time I have to figure out what button pauses it because I'm not using a remote. So
yeah,
it started off great. I was just like, this is awesome. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I do like this movie. I would endorse it as like a movie to just throw on, have a good time with, but like obviously don't expect too much and don't bring too much to the table with you, but if you watch it enough, you'll start to see there's a lot of stuff going on here that the movie it's like just out of the grasp of what this movie is capable of. But it just made me think like, hey, this could have been like a really like awesome all-time interesting movie had it been handled like slightly differently.
Yeah, I think like just like throw or to sort of like put it into a context or whatever, like not all movies need to be the most amazing things ever, but they can exist within really interesting places, like within movie history. And I think sort of like, as we talked about it as a movie that came out in 2006, I think it is very interesting in that regard. And also like the history of this particular franchise, the history of like franchise filmmaking in the 21st century. Like this movie can tell us a lot of different things about like the art form and like film history or the film industry. But like also I watched this movie like half paying attention while I was working today, and it was awesome, you know, to just like to just look up and be like, oh, there's Han looking cool, or like look up and oh, there's someone drifting through the streets. Isn't that cool? Or look up and someone's being called a gaijin. Like absolutely great. Yeah, don't expect too much from it, but like there are some cool and interesting takeaways that we can get from this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you said about sort of franchise filmmaking and specifically this franchise, given how big it became after this. It's interesting time capsule of a film for sure. And very fun to look back on. So I appreciate your time. I know we talked a little bit about maybe another movie that was Batman versus Superman. And I think I'm going to try to do a superhero movie month at some point a little bit later. I'm not sure what month it is, but if you had fun and you want to come back and talk Batman versus Superman, you're maybe the only person I've run into that has something nice to say about it. So I have a soft spot for a lot of that movie. There's also a lot we could talk about that isn't so great, but
I haven't revisited it in a while, but yeah, I am probably one of the few weirdos out here advocating for that movie. Zack Snyder, what a dude.
What a dude.
What a dude. I've got a very complicated relationship with him as a filmmaker, but sometimes it involves me going to bat for Batman versus Superman.
Oh, I mean, I did Sucker Punch on this show with a friend, and we were just sort of like joking that Sucker Punch needs to have the director's cut come out and like do the re-release on the anniversary. And then like a month after that, I saw Zack Snyder posting like, yeah, there's a director's cut and we're working on getting it distributed. I was like, we did this. I was like, we did it.
He's a listener. Yeah, he's a listener for sure.
It would make Zack Snyder one of only a handful of directors that have been featured on the show multiple times. So the door is open for you if you want to step back through it for Batman versus Superman.
I would love to.
Cool. All right. We'll get it on the books in the future. But until then, thank you for being here. Have yourself a good night.
Thanks. You too. Thanks for having me. This was a ton of fun.
My pleasure.
A big thanks to Raph for coming on the show for technically what was his first time, but as you're hearing it will be his second time. I didn't expect to get that much out of Tokyo Drift, but it turns out there was quite a lot of meat on the bone. And it reminds me why it is one of my favorite films from the Fast and the Furious franchise. I hope you had fun with us, because we obviously had a very good time. And if you want to check out Raph, you can do so by listening to the Canon podcast, which is part of Screen Age Wasteland. Links for that, plus his social media handles, will be available one click away in the show notes. And of course, thank you to everyone who took the time to listen to the episode. I know there's a seemingly infinite number of options when it comes to podcasts, and I appreciate you letting me into your ear holes and hopefully into your hearts. In all seriousness, though, time is valuable, and I am very grateful that you've entrusted me with yours. If you enjoy the show, please consider leaving a review or at least a rating and telling a friend about it. If you don't enjoy it, then maybe let's keep that between us. As I mentioned in the open, The new members-only section is in fact live at badmovieswelove.captivate.fm/support, where you're going to get access to a bunch of goodies for only $5 a month. And I would absolutely love to hear from you, so if you have a bad movie you love and would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact me at badmovieswelove@theshice.com or badmovieswelove spelled LUV on Twitter and Instagram. And until next time, take care, be well, stay safe, and have fun however you get your movies. I know you're out there somewhere, Rids. I love you.